Hey guys, welcome back. So I have a quick episode. Again, these are going to be some tips and tricks on how I learned how to do upholstery. And the first one I wanted to show you was how I learned how to do a French seam or a double seam or a single seam. So I will show you on my piece of fabric here. And if you have any questions, drop some comments below and I can try to help you out. So let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is that you probably saw this blue piece of tape on my machine, and this little guy, which I found online and I love it, my little seam guide. So this was my original seam guide, and from the point of my needle to the edge of this blue tape is a 1/2 inch. So I worked with 1/2 inch seams for all of my stitching. And this is just a really easy, simple way to kind of guide yourself through that. So just as an example, when you're lining up your fabric, so from the needle to that piece of tape, it gives me a nice, simple seam guide so that I can guide my stitch through and it stays nice and even. If you don't want to take the time setting up your piece of tape, I would still suggest it though, because even if this little magnet guy moves around, you still have your tape there. But it gives it an extra, even more sturdy piece of metal to keep my stitches straight. Because I noticed when I first started out, and as I'm starting out, it's really hard to keep your stitches straight. So this guy, being magnetized and thick, helps me keep my fabric in a nice, even, straight line. So now I'm going to show you how to do a French seam. I already went through and stitched my first stitch together. So what I like to do, because again, it's just little things like this can keep everything together and make it come out nicer. So you want to first take this extra fabric from your 1/2 inch seam and fold it down. And then I have this great basting tape or sewing tape that I got just from Amazon online, and I've used it for everything, and we're going to use it again in a later video, so I'll show you that too. But just take a little strip of this. So what we're also doing here is not only are we making this easier for us to do our French seam, but it's also letting you reinforce this seam so that if it tugs or pulls, it won't rip. So you can use a piece of canvas cloth. I just have this canvas ribbon that I bought. Again, bought this online with my basting tape. And I'm gonna measure that up and cut it. And there you go. Now you have some fabric behind that to reinforce your stitches. Okay, so now, like I said, we're gonna flip this over. And now you can see our seam, and we're gonna do 2 seams right along here. So I'll show you how to do that now. I like to line up my stitches with the needle, with the edge of the foot here. And that kind of keeps it straight. And you want to line that foot up right along your seam. So again, I gotta fold up my fabric so it fits under my machine. If you watched our beginning video, I kind of have a smaller machine. It is called the mini or the travel size. So it gets a little tricky fitting fabric underneath this, but I make it work. And once you're done, you can see here we have our first, which is also known as a single seam, and we have that first seam going all the way across. Okay, now we're gonna do the other side. So flip your fabric over. Okay, and then once you're done, you will see that double stitch. Okay, so that's how I learned my French seam, and I've been doing them now. I've been practicing with a couple different test pieces of fabric, which I have a whole scrap bin of extra fabric that I like to use when I'm learning something new. So make sure you try to get a little piece of fabric and practice this on your own before you start going into your actual fabric. So I hope this was helpful. Again, it was just a little trick for me. You know, I'm not perfect at this. Practice makes perfect. So if you're working on your piece of upholstery or you're new at this, I say good luck to you, and if you need any help or have any questions, just drop a comment below and we'll be able to answer them for you. Thanks guys, see you next time.